The afternoon sun cast sharp shadows across Madison Avenue as Victoria Hartwell surveyed her domain through floor-to-ceiling windows. Her luxury boutique, Hartwell & Company, gleamed with imported marble floors and crystal chandeliers that cost more than most people's cars. At 42, Victoria had built this empire from nothing, and she protected it fiercely. Too fiercely, some whispered, but Victoria didn't care about whispers. She cared about maintaining standards. The electronic chime announced a customer, and Victoria's perfectly manicured hand paused mid-gesture as she glanced toward the entrance. Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. The woman who entered wore faded jeans with tear at the knee, scuffed sneakers that had seen better days, and an oversized hoodie that hung loosely on her small frame. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she carried a worn canvas tote bag instead of the designer handbags that usually grace Victoria's showroom. Victoria's assistant, Marcus, a young man who'd worked there for 3 months, started toward the customer with a welcoming smile. Victoria's sharp voice stopped him. "I'll handle this." Her heels clicked against marble with the precision of a judge's gavel as she approached. The customer was examining a display of Italian leather handbags, her fingers hovering near but not touching a crimson clutch priced at $8,000. She seemed lost in thought, unaware of Victoria's approach until the boutique owner cleared her throat with deliberate volume. "May I help you?" Victoria's tone carried the kind of politeness that was really a challenge. Each word carefully measured to convey exactly what she thought of the situation. The woman turned, and Victoria noticed she was younger than she'd first appeared, perhaps late 20s, with dark circles under her eyes suggesting sleepless nights. "Yes, I'm looking for something special. A gift." Her voice was soft, almost uncertain. Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I see. And do you have a specific budget in mind?" She emphasized the word budget, just enough to make her meaning clear. "I hadn't really decided yet. I wanted to see what spoke to me first." The customer turned back to the handbags, genuine interest lighting her tired features. Victoria felt a familiar irritation rising in her chest. She'd seen this before, people with no intention or ability to buy wandering through her store like it was some kind of museum, wasting her time, touching merchandise with their common hands, making her real customers uncomfortable. "Miss, I'm going to be frank with you. Everything in this boutique starts at several $1,000s. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at one of the department stores downtown." The woman's face flushed, but she straightened her shoulders. "I understand the prices. I'd still like to look, if that's all right." It wasn't all right. Victoria could feel the eyes of her other customers, a society woman trying on scarves in the corner, a businessman browsing watches by the window. What would they think? Seeing someone dressed like this browsing alongside them. Standards existed for a reason. "I don't think you understand. This isn't browsing. Every item here is carefully curated, imported, exclusive. This is for serious buyers with serious means." "I am serious," the woman said quietly, but Victoria barely heard her. She was already gesturing to Marcus and her security guard, James, a retired police officer who worked part-time. "James, please escort this woman out. And Marcus, sanitize whatever she touched." Victoria turned away dismissively, already focusing on the society woman, who was more deserving of her attention. The young woman's voice rose slightly, no longer soft. "You can't just throw me out for how I look." Victoria spun back, her patience evaporated. "This is my store. I absolutely can. You're making my other customers uncomfortable, and frankly, you're wasting everyone's time." "James." The security guard looked uncomfortable but moved forward. "Ma'am, please, let's not make a scene." For a moment, the young woman stood frozen, her face cycling through shock, humiliation, and something else, something that might have been disappointment but looked deeper, older. Then she simply nodded, adjusted her canvas bag, and walked toward the door with as much dignity as she could gather. As she reached the entrance, she turned back once. "You know, I actually came here because someone told me you value craftsmanship and authenticity over everything else. I guess they were wrong about that." The door closed behind her with a soft chime that seemed to echo in the sudden quiet. The society woman had stopped shopping and was staring. The businessman had paused, his expression unreadable. Marcus was looking at the floor. Victoria clapped her hands once, breaking the silence. Well, back to normal, everyone. Marcus, please bring out the new shipment of scarves for Mrs. Wellington. She refused to feel guilty. She protected her brand, maintained standards. This was business, not charity. The afternoon continued. Sales were made. Compliments were exchanged. Victoria forgot about the incident entirely until the next morning when her phone began ringing before dawn. It was her publicist, Jennifer, and she sounded panicked. Victoria, please tell me you haven't seen social media yet. Victoria, still in her silk robe with her morning coffee halfway to her lips, felt the first stir of unease. What are you talking about? The video, it's everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. It's gone completely viral. Over 3 million views and climbing. Victoria, it's bad. Her laptop was already open. Victoria navigated Twitter with trembling fingers and saw her boutique's name trending. The top video showed everything from the day before, captured from multiple angles. Security footage, she realized with growing horror, but she hadn't authorized its release. Then she saw the timestamp on the original post and the username. It had come from inside her own security system, leaked by someone who had access. The video showed everything. Her face as she looked at the customer with barely concealed contempt. Her dismissive gestures. The way she called for security like the woman was some kind of criminal. And worst of all, the sound was crystal clear. Every cutting word, every insulting implication. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what came after. The comments section was a wildfire rage, but beneath the anger was information. People had identified the woman. Her name was Elena Russo, and she wasn't some random person off the street. Victoria's coffee cup clattered onto its saucer as she read. Elena Russo was the newly appointed creative director of Meridian Fashion Group, one of the largest luxury conglomerates in the world. She'd been a design prodigy who'd worked her way up from sketching in a tenement apartment to becoming one of the most influential voices in high fashion. She was known for wearing simple clothes, for believing that creativity didn't require expensive packaging, and she'd been in New York meeting with boutique owners, scouting for a potential partnership that would bring Meridian's considerable resources and connections to select independent stores. Hartwell and Company had been on her list. The article Victoria found next made her stomach turn. It was from a fashion industry insider blog posted just hours ago. Elena had given a statement. I've always believed that true luxury is about how you make people feel, not what they wear when they walk through your door. Yesterday, I visited several boutiques in Manhattan. One owner reminded me why I got into this industry in the first place by showing me that when we forget to see the human being in front of us, we lose everything that makes fashion meaningful. Hartwell and Company will not be part of Meridian's partnership program. But she wasn't done. She'd also mentioned the name of another boutique, a smaller place Victoria had always considered inferior, that had treated her with warmth and respect despite her casual appearance. Meridian would be partnering with them instead, bringing them international exposure and millions in investment. Victoria's phone was ringing constantly now. Reporters, customers calling to cancel orders, her suppliers, asking careful questions about whether they wanted to remain associated with her brand. The society woman from yesterday had posted her own video, explaining that she'd been so uncomfortable with the treatment of a young woman that she decided never to return. By noon, her accountant called with worse news. 3 major clients had pulled their standing orders. 2 suppliers had terminated contracts. The negative publicity was driving away business faster than she could track it. By the end of the week, she might have to lay off half her staff. Marcus appeared in her office doorway, and Victoria noticed he wasn't wearing his usual boutique uniform. I'm sorry, Ms. Hartwell. I can't work somewhere that treats people like that. I quit. He placed a security badge on her desk and left. Victoria sat alone in her beautiful boutique, surrounded by luxury goods that suddenly felt meaningless. She pulled up the security footage from her private access and watched the incident again, really watched it this time. She saw Elena's face, the hope that had been there when she first entered, genuine excitement about the merchandise. She saw that hope die, replaced by humiliation and hurt. And she saw herself cold and superior, so concerned with protecting her image that she destroyed it entirely. The comments online weren't just angry. Some were sad. This is why people hate luxury brands. One read, "They've forgotten that money doesn't make you better than anyone else." Another said, "I used to dream of shopping at places like this. Now I see they don't want people like me to dream at all." But there was one comment that cut deeper than the rest. It was from a woman who explained that she'd grown up poor, worked 3 jobs to afford her first luxury purchase, and when she'd finally walked into a high-end store, she'd been treated exactly like Elena. "I never forgot how that felt," she wrote. "Small, worthless, like I'd committed a crime by daring to aspire. I spent the next 10 years building a business, becoming successful, but I never shopped luxury again. Not because I couldn't afford it, but because I remembered how it felt to be judged before I even opened my mouth. You didn't just lose a customer that day, Victoria. You lost who you used to be." That comment stayed with Victoria long after she closed the laptop. She walked through her empty boutique, really looking at it for the first time in years. When had this place become more important than the people who walked through its doors? When had she started measuring human worth by clothing labels? She remembered her own beginning, fresh out of design school, wearing thrift store finds because that's all she could afford, walking into boutiques with her portfolio and being dismissed before she could show her work. She remembered the one store owner who'd looked past her cheap shoes and seen her talent, who'd given her a chance. She'd sworn then that if she ever had her own place, she'd never judge anyone by their appearance. Somewhere along the way, she'd broken that promise. Success had made her forget. The next morning, Victoria did something she'd never done before. She posted a video of her own. No makeup, no perfect lighting, just her sitting in her boutique before opening hours, looking tired and sad and very human. "My name is Victoria Hartwell, and I owe Elena Russo and everyone who watched that video an apology. What I did was wrong. Not just bad business, though it was certainly that. It was cruel. I judged someone by their clothes instead of treating them with basic human dignity. And there's no excuse for that. I've spent the last 24 hours reading comments, and many of you shared your own stories of being judged, dismissed, or humiliated for not looking wealthy enough. I'm so sorry that my actions added to that pain and reminded you of those experiences. I'm closing Hartwell and Company for the next week, not because of the business consequences, though those are severe, but because I need to remember why I started this in the first place. When I reopen, things will be different. Everyone will be welcome. Everyone will be treated with respect. Because luxury should never mean losing our humanity." The video went viral too, but the response was mixed. Some people appreciated the apology. Others said it was too late, that she was only sorry because she got caught. Victoria couldn't argue with that. They were probably right. Elena Russo didn't respond publicly, but she did send a private message to the Meridian corporate office. It was brief. "I hope you mean it. The industry needs people who remember that fashion serves people, not the other way around. Good luck." It wasn't forgiveness, exactly, but it wasn't condemnation either. It was something harder, a challenge to do better. When Victoria reopened a week later, she'd made changes. The intimidating marble had been softened with comfortable seating. Price tags were discreet but clear. Her staff, smaller now, had been retrained with one simple rule: treat every person who walks through that door like they belong here, because they do. She'd also started a program, quiet and unpublicized, to mentor young designers from underprivileged backgrounds, offering them the chance she'd once been given. Business was slow. Many customers never came back. The boutique that Meridian had chosen instead was thriving, featured in magazines and fashion blogs. Victoria read those articles without bitterness now, just a sad understanding that actions had consequences. But slowly, something else began happening. People who'd never felt welcome in luxury stores started coming in, tentatively at first. They didn't always buy, but they were treated with respect. Word spread differently this time, not virally but person to person. "She's different now," they said. "She means it." 6 months later, Victoria received an unexpected visitor. Elena Russo walked through the door wearing jeans and a simple sweater, and Victoria's heart stopped. They looked at each other for a long moment. "I heard you made changes," Elena said finally. "I wanted to see for myself." Victoria didn't make excuses or plead for another chance. She just said, "Would you like some coffee? No pressure to buy anything. I'd just like to show you what we're doing differently." They talked for 2 hours about fashion, about dignity, about the responsibility that comes with the privilege of serving others. When Elena left, she didn't promise anything, but she did say, "Keep going. This is what the industry needs." Hartwell and Company never reached its former heights of profit or prestige. But Victoria learned something more valuable. That true luxury isn't about exclusion or price tags or maintaining some artificial standard of who deserves to shop where. It's about craftsmanship, yes, but also about human connection, about making people feel valued rather than judged. She'd learned it the hardest way possible, through public humiliation and business collapse. Some lessons can't be taught any other way. The video of her worst moment remained online, a permanent reminder that would never be fully erased. Victoria had stopped trying to have it removed. Instead, she used it as a teaching tool, showing it to new employees as an example of exactly who not to be. Years later, when design students studied her career, they learned about two versions of Victoria Hartwell: the successful boutique owner who lost everything through arrogance and prejudice, and the humble businesswoman who rebuilt something smaller but more meaningful on the foundation of her mistakes. Which version mattered more? Perhaps that depends on whether you believe people can truly change, or whether some lessons come too late. But this much was certain. Every person who walked through her doors from that day forward, regardless of what they wore or carried, was greeted with the same words: "Welcome. How can I help you today?" And Victoria meant it every single time, because she learned that the most expensive mistake you can make costs nothing at first, just your humanity. But once you've paid that price, everything else becomes worthless too.